You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating, one of my favorite shows. It's just so much fun to meet people who help connect people with other people. I am your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm a certified life and career coach. My co-host, Lisa Manyoky, is not with us today, but filling in for her is the wonderful and lovely Donna Barnes. Hi, Donna. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, Donna, you were here last week and you shared with us that you recently moved from New York to Philly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
You know, enjoying that, you know, for half the money, I get much more in Philadelphia than I did in New York.
Well, yeah. It's great to have you nearby, and I'm looking forward to actually meeting you maybe in the next month or so.
I would love that. Yes, things are getting safer and people are able to like connect. And yeah, that would be really wonderful to sit down in face to face, not just video to video face.
We're definitely going to do that. Donna, would you share with our audience on Business Talk Radio and social media what it is that you do?
Well, I am a life and relationship coach, but I specialize as a breakup coach. And I just recently launched a breakup online, it's called the Breakup Recovery Action Plan, because I think people struggling through a breakup need a lot of support. And it's usually not until you have your heart broken that you start looking at your own issues and kind of go like, well, why didn't he or her want me anymore? Like, what's wrong with me? Which I think is a question everybody needs to ask. It's just that if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, you know, no one wants to look at their issues when they're happy. It's when you're not, like when it's not working for you that you want to look at your issues. So I do that personally. I definitely, you know, have packages where I hold people's hands and help them personally. But I'm really proud. I just put together this amazing program with more than 10 hours of videos and coaching worksheets and basically like a virtual that you can 24/7, because I find a lot of my clients need help in the middle of the night when, you know, I'm sound asleep, hopefully, you know, unless I'm going through my own breakup. But, you know, that way, you know, like, I found like a lot of the traffic on my YouTube channel, which has a lot of breakup support, is in the middle of the night, which is what really prompted me to do that. Because, you know, if you can't sleep and you're really struggling, or you're having a panic attack, which I think is so like, you know, people have never had panic attacks in their lives until someone rejects them and they don't know why. And they can't control it, right? Like we all want to control everything. I mean, you can't, you know, you can't control another person as much as we try. So
yes,
I think that's a big part of it. So
wonderful. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here and sharing what it is that you're doing. Let's bring out Linda Curtin from California. Linda, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
It's so nice to have you here. So how are things out there in California?
It's great. The weather's good. The trees are blossoming. Allergies are kicking in. So excuse me, I'm usually not quite so raspy sounding.
You know, I never had allergies in my life until I lived in Los Angeles in the 90s. And I have bad allergies ever since. Yeah.
Exactly.
I do too. I recently found out that I have a peanut allergy, but that's for another show. Yes. So Linda, I think it's interesting when I looked at your LinkedIn, I think you are a relationship referee 101. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
What does that mean?
Well, I feel like in my singleness, I did the whole online dating thing and then was fortunate enough to find a good fit for myself. But I actually feel so compelled to help others because I don't think the issue is so much finding a quality person as much as it is making it work once you do. So I did matchmaking for about 3 years. I ended that last year. And I really got a lesson on what people's real issues are with all of those clients. And I found that one of the key things that I find to be the issue is people don't discern the difference between a need and a want. We get so caught up in our wants that we bypass the importance of defining our needs in a relationship. And so you may have those immediate wants gratified, but that can only sustain you for so long. And then you wind up feeling like something's missing. What is it? And your core needs aren't being met or fed by this relationship. So that led me to just go out on my own and just do the coaching part of it. And there's many therapists, there's many coaches, but I wanted to go into the other area of, okay, something's wrong. I just don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And am I being ridiculous, or is this a substantive problem that could affect the foundation of the relationship? So I wanted to navigate that part for people. I mean, we tend to go to friends or somebody, but they're not going to be impartial. Mm-hmm. They are going to side with you or a parent, and that's reasonable. So I wanted to be that neutral voice that could call somebody out, as I did when I was doing the coaching part of my matchmaking, and just give the other's perspective and try to help them decide, is this a big deal or is it not? And do I, end it prematurely without working through something that could just be a minor thing?
Yeah. Well, and I think, when you have needs, you need to be able to express them, which is where I find a lot of people have a hard time struggling. Like they expect oh, if you loved me, you'd know what I want, which is ridiculous, right? It's like you need to share, if you have an expectation, you need to let your partner know so they can possibly make that happen for you.
Exactly.
It's like I always say to my clients, if you have an expectation and you don't share it, it's your fault if you don't get that, not your partner's.
Like in any relationship. And I also like, Linda, that you use the word neutral. I think, I'm divorced and have had other relationships, but what happens is people that you tell your story to, then they're siding with you, right? You think you're going to break up. You're going to call Donna because you think you're breaking up. And then all of a sudden you get back together, and the people that you told the story to, they still remember that you said she's this and he's that, right?
Right, exactly. And the part, like you were saying, Donna, nobody is a mind reader. I think movies and Hollywood have given people this illusion that if it's the right person, they'll just know. They'll just read your mind. And that's nonsense. And when you set that expectation of any human being, you're setting yourself up for failure and disappointment immediately.
Right. It's definitely true.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you need to tell people what you want if you want it to happen. Although easier said than done. I think that's hard for a lot of people.
Right. And that goes back to your, co-host Lisa, and getting people prepared to really know who they are and to be your authentic self. I have a motto that you can't really know, love, and trust somebody completely until you know, love, and trust yourself completely.
Yes, I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
And that's where you need to start. And when I was doing online dating, I went into it with this idea that, it should be simple. I had had a wonderful 20-year marriage and was widowed. And I thought, we're older, we're wiser. It should be easier than it was in our 20s. And I quickly learned it's the exact opposite. It's harder because in your 20s, you don't have as much history. In your 20s, you have a lot more hope. You don't have as much disappointment. And you're still, I want to say, kind of flexible and moldable. And I met my first husband when I was 23, married at 25. He was a couple years older. And we wound up finishing our adulthood together. Dating after 45, 50, you are now a pretty set in your ways kind of person for the most part. And that proposes other issues in trying to integrate and compromise with a new love interest.
Really valuable points. I wanted to say hello to Joe Colonna and also to Susan Smith. Thank you for watching. We'd love to hear from you, by the way, right, ladies? Don't we want people to contact us?
Bring it on.
Yes.
We're live streaming on all these platforms. I see on my devices that you're watching. Of course, Business Talk Radio. We love that you're listening. And we'd also like to take phone calls. If you have a phone and it's handy, it's nearby, give us a call. That number is, I'm going to post it up here, 609-961-1699. Linda, I'm very interested in your background. You shared with us before the show that you actually were a social worker, and that's a tough job. So I commend you on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I was a social worker, retired from that after 25 years in city and county of San Francisco with Child Protective Services. So
even more difficult.
Yeah.
And I would think, can you share with us what skills did you learn from that you were able to translate into helping put people together?
Great question. And with the cancer struggle, my husband that did pass away, he battled it for 10 years. So I'm not the stereotypical female where they say we're overly emotional. That kind of emergency type service job I did, I learned how to control my emotions very well. And in the care of my husband and his battle, I have to sit before doctors. I have to, not fall apart. I have to be that supportive partner that he needed, as he was for me. So those years taught me how to deal with crisis, how to deal with stress in a more calm, effective way. And that's one of the things I like to teach clients now is too many times we let little things trigger us and we unload on each other in an overly emotional way. And that's not conducive to having good conflict resolution. And you wind up just making matters worse because you haven't done your own emotional inventory before you address something. And I'm not saying pertinent things should not be addressed. They absolutely should. You can't suppress things. They're going to just blow up later. But to do your own inventory before you confront your partner and just ask yourself, okay, right now, where's my headspace at? Am I stressed from work? Am I stressed from something else? Am I in a position to be able to clearly communicate my concerns and my needs that will be effective rather than just being triggered? And if you're able to learn that and come to the person with 3 things: what your concern is, why it's concerning you, and the third thing, what can your partner do to help you with that or improve upon their behavior? So just coming to somebody like that, you're going to have a resolution in a much shorter time if you stick with it than if you come at somebody with an emotional confrontation.
Lots of really good points there. I think we're going to dig into that after we take a commercial break. So stay with us. We're here live on Business Talk Radio and social media, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I'm here with my co-host, Donna Barnes, and our guest, Linda Curtin. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our ministry alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello to Dr. Roxy and Pat Hoban. We are so excited to have you with us today. This is Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. It's all about dating. We have dating experts here today. Donna Barnes, my co-host, and Linda Curtin. So, Linda, we were talking about your background, and you had shared with us you've been through quite a lot in your life, and you've taken everything that you've been through and you've made it into lemonade, right? Lemons into lemonade. So tell us about what you're doing today.
You know, now I'm working. I had been a matchmaker previously for about 3 years. I ended that last year, and I found that matching people wasn't my strength, where my strength lied. It lied with coaching and helping people that are either single and trying to get themselves ready to date, or maybe they're dating, or even married people. I mean, I work with both genders in all 3 of those areas to just help them be more successful in love and to figure out some of those little quirks that can become big issues. I believe don't have to be if they're handled differently. And that's where I feel I can be of a benefit to others, is having been in my second marriage now for 5 years and did lots of dating in between. I feel like I have a lot to offer somebody from, like you had said earlier, a neutral place.
Wonderful. And it's interesting with both of you here coaching from different aspects, right? Because although it could be the same, right? You could, Donna, you could work with someone from the beginning when they're looking to meet someone, and Linda, you could work with someone after their relationship doesn't work out, right? It's all just helping people.
Right.
So what have you each been finding during the pandemic in terms of the openness of people to meet someone? Donna, we'll start with you. Are people more guarded?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think initially people were just afraid to interact with other people at all because they didn't know what this was yet and what was going on. But I think people really are starting to have fatigue on like isolating. Like I've said from the beginning, it's unhealthy to isolate yourself. It breeds depression. But unfortunately, that's exactly what we've been asked to do. And if you were single when this started, that was really inconvenient at the nicest way to put that, right? So I think the good thing is I've always been a fan of like video dating. I mean, years ago I tried to start my own, more than 10 online dating site that had video dates long before anybody was doing that, because like scammers was such a big thing, and scammers are also starting to try to, they'll all where there's a will, there's a way, right? But I think when you actually can video chat with somebody and then you can save yourself, like I had a girlfriend who used to say, tonight was a waste of makeup, right? Like if she got all dolled up and then she didn't meet anybody, right? But I say to my clients, like you would never line up 5 or 6 dates in a row if you were actually going out and meeting people. But you can do that sitting in front of your computer. You can get all hair and made up once, and then you can schedule each person for 10 or 15 minutes and then decide who maybe you want to talk to again, or take the risk at this point, right, to go meet in person, which you should always do in public anyway. So that's been a good thing, that you have to meet in public because of what's been going on. So, but actually on the flip side of that, not, because, I've been single, and, there were certainly people that were like, well, hey, would you feel comfortable to come to my apartment? And it's like, not really.
No.
Like, I don't know you yet, and I would never on a first date come to your apartment, right? So that has put a whole different element to it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Donna. That's a good perspective. What about you, Linda?
I've found that people are more interested now. I think the COVID thing, stripping us of our communities, stripping us of even the workplace camaraderie, has made people, stuck at home, realize, when it comes down to it, it's that full-time partner that is with you regardless of what life and the world may throw at us. So I found that people are more motivated, but yet also, as you said, more frustrated that the availability and the freedom to do so is somewhat limited. But definitely the matchmaking company I had been working for last year started streaming into just all videos. So there are still ways. You just have to be a little creative, like we've all been about so many other things with COVID.
Right.
Yes.
Well, one thing just to quickly add that I think is a wonderful thing about it is that, like, if you can find out, like, build the friendship and the emotional intimacy by talking first, like, because that's always been a scammer's tool, which I've said to clients, you need to meet them pretty quickly so that you know that they're actually who you say they are, right? But because of COVID, I think relationships are getting to foster more so than they were previously, because you're going to be more cautious before you decide, like, yeah, sure, I'll meet you for a drink. Why not? Right? Like, that's not possible.
I know over the weekend, I got my first shot. And when I was driving back, I felt this incredible weight lifted off. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to re-enter the world and meet people. It's just, so I think that singles or people who are in relationships and they want to get out of them, I think people are going to be lining up to go to restaurants and bars and any place that people socialize to meet other people.
Yeah.
Well, here in Philadelphia, people have been doing that. It's like they've built these elaborate, I know in New York has done the same thing, right? These like kind of little houses, they're 3-sided for each table, that you have your own little kind of cave, if you will, to have dinner in. That I think, people need that social interaction. So it's necessary.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about, when we have our checklist of things that we have to ask the other person, is on that list going to be, have you had both of your vaccinations? That be on the list.
Well, it should definitely be a topic of conversation, for sure.
Well, and if you've had it, right? Because if you've had it, you have a certain period of time that you have, the antibodies or so. Like, they don't know how long that is yet, but and then there's if you've had it, you might only need one shot. I was listening to Dr. Oz yesterday, and he had an expert on that was saying that if you actually had COVID, you really might only need one dose of the vaccination because you already had your own kind of resistance starting to build up to it.
Interesting. You know what else? Like, if you think about Pennsylvania, I'm in New Jersey, you're in California, as opposed to Florida and now Texas and other states that are fully open, right? That the dating situation is going to be quite different than it's going to be in a state that's not totally open.
Right.
So, yeah. So, Linda, in terms of you shared with us about losing your husband, and by the way, I'm very sorry about that. And this is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, right?
Right.
Everyone know that? Yes. Just from a relationship perspective, you talked about what a great marriage you had. So can you share with our audience, what are some ways to really connect with someone, your significant other, spouse, who has cancer or has a chronic illness, and you're there with them? How can you keep that love and that romance going?
Oh, it was precious. I mean, when he first got diagnosed, I was 6 months pregnant, and we had a 4 and a 7-year-old. And my immediate reaction was, oh my gosh, I just want to be everything that he needs me to be, during this trial. And at the same time, I looked down at my 6-month pregnant belly, and I thought, and my other two running around, and I thought, oh my God, as much as I want to, I don't know that I can be. So I think that's a key thing in relationships. Is it's not whether you're perfect. It's not whether you can be everything to somebody, because humanly you cannot. But what's key is that you have the desire to be. That changes everything. So, we wound up being hilarious with each other. I mean, there came a time clearly where romance was not possible in his illness. And we would be sitting there at the chemo place, and I thought he was knocked out from the drugs that they give him to make sure he's not nauseous. And I bent down to get something out of my bag, and I hear his voice say, "Whoa, you look really good in those jeans." And I started laughing, and I thought, oh, well, thank you for noticing. And he's like, no, thank you for wearing them. And I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, even, and this is very personal, but very moving, in his deathbed, honestly, he got to where he couldn't move his legs. And so I thought, well, what can I do? Because I needed to at least get 4 hours sleep. That's all I was getting for months towards the end. And I came up with the idea of the dog leashes. So I thought you could put the loop around your feet, and then he still had good movement with his arms. And he was a former football player. So for him to lose these faculties was very difficult. And so we used humor. I mean, it's like we said, you have to laugh or you'll go crazy. And so I go, yeah, you could just adjust from the top. And then I said, yeah, but we have to take him off in the morning because his friend was coming to visit. I said, or they might think I'm tying you to the bed, and then later on I went, oh, wait a minute. That's not one we ever got to try. and we just had such joy and such laughter. And I believe, laugh or go crazy. Life is hard sometimes, and it's totally unfair, and it doesn't make sense. But we both were completely dedicated and committed to each other. We respected, trusted, and loved each other. And we had a lot of humor. And I mean, his hospice nurse said, "Oh, how you doing today?" And he's like, "Oh," and this is when he's bedridden, mind you, at home. And he said, "Oh, I'm just a little tired. I shouldn't have ran those 5 miles." This is a dying man who gave me and our 3 kids such an example of how to, persevere through anything. And until his last breath, literally, he was such a trooper. So, my attitude is, again, you don't have to be perfect, but if you're committed to that person and you trust that person and there's mutual respect and love, we were like, I equate it to men in the battlefield or, police officers. When you go to battle shoulder to shoulder with each other, you're even closer. And then I take that to my clients. Your battle may not be cancer. Your battle may be, COVID struggles or financial struggles or something else. But you can persevere. You can let it bring you closer together, not draw you apart. Even his oncologist, when he was getting treatment, I'd crawl up in the bed with him and rest with him. And he told us after months and months of doing this, and he had it 3 times in a decade, so we knew him very well. He teared up one day and he said to my husband, "What you and your wife have is very special." And he started to cry. He said, "You don't know how many times I see this disease tear couples and families apart." And as a social worker, when this happened, I was like, okay, this is a big one, and there's so much that's going to be out of our control. And I said, but one thing we do have control over is how much we let it affect us in the relationship. So I'm a social worker and a very big advocate of love. So I became protective of that. I knew what I couldn't control, but what I could control, I did make a priority to keep the laughter, keep the time together. And we would have our times to cry and share our fears. But you have to have a balance. We would have some days where we're like, okay, today's a no talking about cancer day, where you just have to say, I'm not going to talk about it today. That's not suppressing it. That's just saying, I'm not letting it take over. I'm not letting it rule and control all of parts of us. So, it is possible. It is difficult. We did it for a decade. And I really feel that openness and talking about it and forging a plan as a team for whatever your battle is the best way to do it, and not ignore it. Don't ignore the elephant in the room. Don't let it grow to the point that it's squishing you two apart, suffocating you in the corners before you want to deal with it.
Well, thank you for being so transparent and sharing that beautiful story with us. Hopefully that gives people courage to come forward and share their own stories and realize that you don't have to keep all your feelings stuffed in, because that's not going to do any good.
No.
We need to take a break. And when we come back, let's talk about dating after a breakup. And all right. So I'm going to play an ad for one of our sponsors, Margie Cidrone, and I just want to show some of her pieces that she made for me. This is Dr. Jacalyn bracelet that she made.
That's great.
And she also made this ring and my Dr. Jacalyn necklace. So let's hear from Margie.
I noticed that last week. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah. She's in South Jersey, right near Philadelphia. So let's listen to Margie Cidrone. We'll be right back. Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cidrone, Artisan Jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cidrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
I don't think men are superficial idiots, that their brains are wired to be visual. You're told I give great advice.
Nike Just Do It for exercise, I think really applies to sex too.
I've coached hundreds of men and women. So I disagree with her where she's like, put it all out there on the first date. You know, an open book is not sexy. Exactly. You know. Do you have relationship questions? Chances are one of my clients or myself or my friends have gone through the same thing, and I already made a video about it. So I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, Donna Barnes. I've made hundreds of advice videos based on real-life experiences so that you can make better choices.
In my upcoming Breakup Recovery Action Plan, there's going to be checklists and quizzes, best information that I've ever experienced or acquired. If you're stuck and can't move forward or let go, my action plan is built to help you. Subscribe to my channel. I'll help you have better relationships.
Stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to It's All About Dating here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I'm here with two experts, Donna Barnes and Linda Curtin. They are experts in all things dating and relationships. So let's talk about getting back into the world of dating when you've had a relationship that didn't work out. So what do? Maybe you're widowed, as we had talked about, Linda. Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you went with somebody for a long time, you weren't married, and it just didn't work out. What are the things you need to do, the steps? Can we share steps for our audience? I'm going to start with you, Donna.
Well, yeah. Well, primarily, it's all grief. So, whether you've physically lost somebody because they died or just because they left you. And I've had clients have said to me, I'd feel better if they died. That's and they're not choosing to not be with me. But the 5 stages of grief, right, which are usually the first one's denial, right? And then there's bargaining and anger and depression, unfortunately, and then finally acceptance. And really, you cannot even think about dating until acceptance. A lot of clients, they say the quickest way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else, but that's so not true, right? Because it's like every client that I've ever had, and myself too, when you move right on to somebody else, it just makes you miss the last person. You really need to take that time to really, and going back to really knowing yourself. And I always say that, the only person that you can truly trust is yourself. And when you trust yourself to be okay, right? Because a lot of people really struggle with abandonment issues and love addiction and have a really hard time being by themselves. And they just feel lost as soon as they lose that relationship and their life falls apart. I've had clients I've had to encourage to go to work because they just can't bring themselves to do it. So I think you need to give yourself the time to process letting go, and then you need to redefine your identity. I think a lot of it is that you're so tied to somebody else's significant other. You need to reclaim yourself as an individual single person and embrace that and be proud of it. And shame on anybody that ever says, why are you still single? It's the worst question. It implies what's wrong with you. And, I always say to clients, you can throw that back on them and say, I'm happy being single. Why are you still single? Or why are you single? It's really,
It's about how you choose to think about it. And you are what you think you are. So I always say, if you're thinking something that's making you upset, think about something else. Like, it really can be that easy. Like, easier said than done. But it's like, I have clients that get all wrapped up in like they're giving themselves a panic attack. It's like, push the pause button and choose to focus on something more positive. So I think when you can truly go out on a date and be present, and I always say, give yourself a mission of finding out what that person's all about. Like, everybody's all so worried, like, is this person going to like me? Is this but it's like, forget about that. Just assume they're going to like you, and put your attention on finding out about them, which gets you out of your head. And that also helps you decide whether this is somebody that you really want to get to know or not. And the better you know yourself, to your point, Linda, right? Like, you can have your own personal red flags of behavior that you had in past relationships that didn't work, that need to be a bright red flag, that as soon as you see that in somebody, don't sign up for that again if that doesn't work for you.
Right.
And be vigilant about that.
Really good points. Thanks, Donna. Thank you.
And Donna, I would say, this is me being the referee, someone saying to you, "Why are you still single?" could be a compliment.
It's a backhanded compliment.
Well, perhaps, but maybe that's their way of saying, "Wow, you're pretty special. You're awesome. I don't get it. Why are you still single? You would be great for a number of people." So, that's kind of what I try to do, is add in a different perspective, not to say disagree that your point isn't what it may be for some, but it's probably not that for all, Yeah.
I to your point, like, I think people think that they're being nice and flattering when they say that, but
wait, here's something I want to bring up. So I'm single. And I think it's great to be single, because if I wasn't single, there's no way I'd be able to build all of this in the last year, right? I'd have to be doing this and doing that. So I think there's a place and time for being single, and then you do what it is you want to do and accomplish what you want to accomplish. And then when it's time to meet someone, then you meet someone, and you share these things together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's very appropriate, that if you're not all in, you shouldn't be dating. Or, like, as Donna said, if you're not healed, you shouldn't be dating. I like people say drink responsibly. I like to say date responsibly. Don't go out there a hot mess and, wreak havoc on somebody else's life as well as your own. Take your time to resolve what your personal issues are. I used to say to the guys I dated in that 5-year window before I remarried, at the end of it, most of them, there was a couple that wouldn't go for it, but I was like, let's just have a little feedback session.
Oh, wow.
I want this to be of benefit to both of us, because we're not getting any younger. Let's not make this just a wasted, confused, frustrated experience. Let's tell each other a couple of things that did or didn't work. Now, that doesn't mean that person should change it, but it's just to be giving somebody else some illumination, if you will, on something they may not be aware of. And that doesn't, like, I wasn't like, "Oh, I hate your shirts," which in one case I did. I hated the shirts he wore all the time. But I was like, it's a shirt. I talked to my mother-in-law, who now has also passed. She was a sweetheart, supporting me through the dating experience. And, I was like, but that's a small thing. It's just a shirt, And another thing I like to tell my clients, even when they're just going out there again, are in a relationship, are married, is not just figure out what your issue is, like I said, how they can help you fix it, and why it bothers you. The ABCs. Also look at the person, and this could be early dating, this could be video dating even, and tell yourself, okay, is there something about his attitude, his behavior, or his character?
I like that.
So look at those ABCs, because that will also, instead of sitting there going, something's bothering me about him, I don't know what it is, and, this is just a tool to help yourself categorize. Is this a big deal? If it's a character flaw, yeah, it is. Character is huge. If it's just his attitude, maybe he's nervous, maybe he's, trying to be funny and he's really not funny, but something about you said was that humor was important to you. So cut him some slack if it's just his attitude's a little different than I like, or his humor's a little different. Now behavior, if he tells you he's out partying all the time, especially now during COVID, then you could be like, I don't think his behavior is something that aligns with me being, a more conscious person and careful human being in general. So I mean, think of it that way so that you're not bouncing all over the place and that emotions don't start spiraling and then you can't figure out what the root of it is. My first husband said, "You're as good as Dr. Laura at getting to the root of the issue, the real heart of the problem." And he said, "But you're a lot nicer about your delivery with it." And I said, "Well, I got to give her a break because she has a short amount, like you do, of radio time. So sometimes you have to be more blunt,
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if I can piggyback on your thought there, though, like I always say to clients too, though, when someone tells you about something about themselves, believe them. Because especially as a breakup coach, like I have so many people that tell me, well, yeah, he told me that he'd never been faithful to anybody. And I'm like, well, what made you think they'd be faithful to you? Right? Like, so I think, unfortunately, everybody takes things personally and they think, oh, yeah, but I'm different. Like, that's not going to happen with me. Or, oh, I can change that about them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, like you need to take somebody for who they're telling you that they are and trust that that is who they are.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally.
That hits the nail on the head. I can't tell you. I mean, it's not that it's hundreds of times, but how many times I've heard, I really like you, but I don't like the fact that you are so into your career. Well, guess what? Not the right person for you. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or if one guy offered me a contract that he would pay me what I was making in my corporate job if I stopped working. And I just would travel around with him. And I said, I am not interested in that. Thank you. But so that's your point. Like, look at someone, what they're presenting to you and say, will that work for you or not?
Right.
And if not, you're not. It's like I have friends, and I actually did this once myself too. You redress the guy. The guy's dressed wearing whatever, and you like, what, I don't like this, so let's go shopping, and then you have a whole different person, and they don't really like wearing those clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, then that's their boundary issue that they need to say to you, no, I don't like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I do think that's a better thing. Instead of saying, I don't like that, it's better to suggest, hey, I really like this. Like, and
you look great in this.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I loved it when you wear that. Like,
Has anyone ever tried to redress you in terms of your style?
One guy, it was really funny. He was the one who I hated the shirts, ironically. And it was about our third date. And he just told me straight out the door, he goes, okay, today's date is no makeup date. And I was like, excuse me?
That's a little controlling.
Right. And he was like, yeah, I like to see my dates early on with no makeup at all. And I said, well, that's funny. If we're going swimming or something like that, that'd be fine. But I enjoy makeup. I'm very feminine in that way. I like doing my hair. And if I'm going to a restaurant, I'm not going, clean faced, and so no, that we won't be doing that, and that only lasted another week or two. And I ended it with him. But I think that's about the only time. And then my first husband, I will say, he said when I would approach things, he felt it was confrontational in our early dating, which is always the hardest, ladies and gentlemen. The dating stage of adjusting and getting to know each other and figure out what's the person's true intention and character is a big deal. But I would say something to him and he's like, because he wasn't somebody who very friendly, very sociable, but didn't dive deep. And I'm not trying to stereotype. I think men are more tend to be that way, especially in their 20s where they haven't delved as deep into who they are. And here I am, a social worker, and that's all I want to do. I want to dive deep. And so he was a little taken back by that at first. And he saw it as conflict, which one day he said that. And I found that so eye-opening. And I said, baby, I'm not, creating conflict. I just want to get deep inside of who you are, on a deeper level than what friends or acquaintances or coworkers would do. And so I think sometimes, again, our statements and our intentions are not what somebody's assuming. Mm-hmm. And assuming is like a death sentence in relationships and in any kind of, work relationship even. my new husband, we all have to adjust to each other, even at this age. And he tends, from having had a happy marriage for almost 30 years, to assume, and it's like, no, I'm not, saying that. Ask me what I'm saying. Ask me what my intention is. So we can go into that autopilot place, and somebody who's saying something that they're trying to be encouraging and motivating towards you, you could take as judgment and criticism. And so we tend to go there. Oh no, they're judging me. Oh no, he's being critical. Just stop for a second and say, I hear what you're saying, and say it back to him, and then say, what's your purpose for sharing that with me? Before you assume the worst and get defensive and make the wrong assumption.
Yes. I think I myself early on, I would tend to do that. You just assume something, or someone says something and you interpret a certain way, but you didn't bother to answer follow-up questions to find out, dig deeper and find out what is it they're really trying to say. So I think it's great that you would ask those clarifying questions.
Yeah, you need that clarity. And it goes to what Donna's saying about a breakup. It may not even be about what that person said, but whatever he said triggered your old stuff that you haven't resolved.
Yes, there it is.
Oh my gosh. When I was dating, I had a gentleman after he was an out-of-state guy I tried one time, long distance. It was like our fourth conversation. We had no reason to argue. We had met each other one weekend. There was no reason for him to be upset with me. And he just started on this tirade. And I had to stop him, and I said, who are you talking to right now? Because we don't have enough history for that kind of anger or frustration to be unloaded on me. And then he had to realize it. He's like, yeah, I still have old stuff. It's like he was talking to his ex-wife.
Right.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
I had a guy once, years ago in New York, right? We'd had one or two dates, really nice dates, very handsome man, right? But he had shared with me that his wife had left him. It was kind of when Facebook was fairly new, right? This was a while ago. And she reconnected with her high school sweetheart and left him and took their son, right? A buddy of mine, because I had done a talk show and I got invited to the Yankees game, right? A buddy of mine works for the Yes Network and said, hey, I've got to, and his tickets were always amazing, right? And I knew this guy was a Yankees fan, right? But it was a Tuesday, so I called him and I was like, hey, I got tickets for the Yankees game tonight. Do you want to go? And he went off on me. It's my night with my son. I, against my will, don't get to be with my son. And I was like,
oh,
wow.
No.
Yeah.
First off, I've never asked you to not be with your son. And I thought I was doing a nice thing. Never mind. I'll find someone else to go.
I wonder if he was secretly angry because he wanted to go to the game and he couldn't because this was the only time he got with his son.
Well, and I only had maybe one more date with him. I think partly because he felt bad and he wanted to apologize to me and buy me dinner. But I think he was still madly in love with his ex-wife, still very angry that he had this nice family. And then, he's going against my will. I don't get to see my son every day, right? Because the wife, so that's that point of you need to be ready to date again before you're out airing your dirty laundry. But
right. He could have just had a upsetting phone call with her about this visitation and just took it out on you.
Yeah, probably. But massive red flag to me. I don't do well with people. I'm the nicest person in the world, but if you want to argue with me, I need to tell myself no, don't engage with that. So
yeah,
right. I need someone that's not testing me frequently about that,
Yeah. How was the game? Did you end up going?
I did, yes. I'm actually a big Yankees fan. So I'm from Philadelphia, love the Phillies, but it's hard to live in New York and I lived in New York my entire adult life. So, and the Yankees are just, I'm sorry to all you Boston Red Sox fans out there, but my buddy, sells ads for the Yes Network, which is the Yankees channel. So yeah, oh my gosh, he gives me clubhouse seats and the new stadium has this big picture window right behind home plate that has this 5-star restaurant
behind it that you can get lobster and all sorts of, it's pretty amazing. You have fine dining right behind home plate watching the Yankees.
Sounds like a great date location. So
yeah, I invited this guy. I took a girlfriend instead, right? Like, she and I had fun. So
that's a lot of fun too. So with the last couple of minutes of our show, let's have our two experts here. If you are going to go on a date and it's during COVID, what's a good suggestion for something to do? I know Donnie said in Philadelphia, New York, they've got these pods or these bubbles or whatever it is. But is it the only great option to go get something to eat or meet for a coffee or a drink? What are your suggestions for people watching, listening? Linda?
Well, I feel like going for a walk or something that is more interactive. When I was doing the matchmaking, most of the clients didn't prefer the date, and that was pre-COVID, of sitting and having a meal together. They wanted something that was more interactive, and you could see how somebody just communicates without having the distraction of a meal.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of activity dates where like you go do something, which during COVID is a little bit more challenging. But, being outside and taking a hike or going to some sort of an event or something that you can actually do something together. Because especially like younger people, I think I've had some younger clients that said to me, I used to work with what would you do? Right. And there was this couple that we sent them out on a nice dinner, and she called me and she was like, if we'd gone and just had a drink, I think we'd been okay. But we sat over dinner for 3 hours and I ran out of things to say to him. Yeah. And I didn't and then it was awkward, So I think sitting across the table and staring at each other, especially if people are nervous, is harder than if you have something else to put your attention on, right? As some sort of activity, even if it's like bowling or something, like a game that you can play that just gives you something else to talk about.
I like that a lot. Yes, that's wonderful. Well, the time has flown by. I'm always in a state of shock. It's March already. Can you believe this? It's
yay! It's 5:00 and it's not dark yet.
I love that. I think it's dark around 6 now, which I think is amazing.
Yes.
Well, and daylight savings time is in like another week or 10 days or somewhere there.
Thank God.
So many exciting things.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you both for being here. Linda, I'm going to spotlight you and I'm going to run your banner. Can you tell us the best way for people to reach out to you? What are the services that you provide?
Yes, you can contact me through relref101@gmail. And then I also have a Facebook page, Relationship Referee 101. And I like to just offer something very simple. It can be a phone call, whatever their comfort level is. We can do Zoom video. And my rates are very, very reasonable because I just want to help. I genuinely do. And I have like $20 for 30 minutes and $35 for an hour. So anybody, I want to make it accessible to all people, and I want them to know it's all confidential. But you can tell me what your present issue is if you're in a relationship or a marriage, or you can just say, these are my issues in the past when I was dating, and I don't want to repeat them. So I can help you sort through that.
Well, that's certainly reasonable. Thank you for doing that, Linda.
Sure.
For people listening on the radio, can you please spell your email address out?
Yes, it is relref101@gmail.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. It was great seeing you. We'll see you backstage in just a moment.
Great.
Bye. Donna, that was a great interview with a fascinating guest. I love the fact that you were on here today, and look forward to having you back again. What's the best way that people can reach out to you, and for what services?
Well, I also do dating, relationship, and breakup coaching. So, donnabarnes.com is the main hub, but I also have nydatingcoach.com and breakup.expert. But, or donna@donnabarnes.com is my email address. So I do personal one-on-one coaching. I used to meet with people in person. Now I mostly this way through like Zoom is just as easy, or on the phone. And I have a virtual coaching online for people that are going through a breakup also. So I mostly just really want to help people too, because, there's no manual that tells you how to do a lot of this stuff. And I think having someone to confide in that is truly not biased, that can really give you an honest opinion about what's best for you, truly, with no ulterior motive, I think is invaluable sometimes.
I agree with you. And one thing I should have said when Linda was here is the one thing I found is when I became a certified coach and interviewing coaches and talking with coaches truly do care about other people. It's not about, putting the money in the bank. That's nice, right? We all need money, but we really care about helping people get unstuck or getting from point A to point B, whatever it is. So thank you for the work that you're doing, Donna. And I appreciate you being here. I'll see you backstage in just a moment.
Okay.
And thank you everyone for watching our shows today. I do want to talk to you just about our new platform, A Better You. We have shows Wednesday and Thursday. A Better You are lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And so coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors get to come on our show and they get 15 minutes to present us with a lesson, something that we can learn from. So they tell us what it is they're going to tell us, and then they give us steps to do whatever it is that they're going to tell us about. And so once that's accomplished, then we can put their lesson along with a 5-question quiz up on A Better You University and make it available for purchase. So if you're interested, if you're considered to be an expert in your industry, please go to abetteryou.tv. Also, we are in the process of planning a Better You Symposium and Trade Show. We're expecting 10,000 coaches, consultants, trusted advisors, suppliers to the coaching industry to get together for an in-person event. Yay, actually getting together. So we're going to have keynote speakers and we're going to have networking functions, and we're going to have tracks that are just specific to coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. So if you're interested in attending, you want to know more, please reach out to me at drjacalyn.com. I'd be happy to share with you. And then finally, tomorrow we have 3 shows, and I hope that you will check them out. We have the Pet Psychic Amina, which is always a fun show. Then we have Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity, and the Variety Show. So that's all for today. That's a wrap. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.